City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 18th, 2014 is called to order. Everyone please rise. Councilor Kalkous, would you read us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's proceedings are being televised by the Amesbury Cable TV Channel 12 and recorded by the clerk. We ask that you not approach the clerk's table during the meeting, as it does have a tendency to cause interference on the tape. Copies of the agenda as well as speaker request forms can be found at the back of the room. Anyone wishing to speak during the public comment or on a particular agenda item is asked to fill out a speaker request form and give it to the clerk. If any items are presented to the council at the meeting, a copy must be presented to the clerk for the record. Bonnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilor Kalkous?
Here.
Councilor McClure? Here. Councilor Movinzade?
Here.
Councilor Sherwood?
Here.
Councilor Sikoras?
Here.
Councilor Botley?
Present.
Councilor Ferguson?
Present.
And President McMillan?
Present.
Councilor LaVoy has not arrived yet.
Okay, moving on to the minutes of October 14th, 2014 and November 5th, 2014. I will entertain a motion. Councilor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes on October 14th, 2014 and November 5th, 2014 as submitted.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Councilor Sikoras has seconded. Are there any comments or questions? If not, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to mayoral appointments, and I would like to read a notice on these appointments before we begin. Ms. Kligerman Thomas is not present due to a prior commitment. Susan Ballard is not present due to a work commitment. She was expecting to attend. We have Rosie Werner here. And we have a call into John Call. We have a call into John Call. I don't know if he's here, but so anyway, we'll proceed with this 2014-128, the appointment of D.M. Kligerman Thomas to Council on Aging. Do we have any comments by the council?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what your statement was about whether or not we can go ahead and appoint without them being present.
Right. Well, they're not.
I personally think that I've gone through all the resumes of those people that are not present, and I think they all are outstanding candidates, and I would hate to see this bumped for another month. So even though they're not able to be here, and I know Mr. Call is from Haverhill, and I'm on the Green Energy Commission, he comes highly recommended by our chairman of the commission, so I would love to see him go ahead and get appointed. So.
Okay.
I'd love to go ahead.
Just for the information, as I suspect all of you probably know, that these appointments come down from the mayor, and if we don't approve them on this meeting, they will automatically go into effect within 20 days. So it's kind of a moot point that we're not going to be able to call them back at another meeting. So I will entertain a motion on 2014-128. Councilor.
Are we doing these individually, or did you want to?
Yes, no, we'll do them individually.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the appointment of D.M. Kligerman as a member of the Council on Aging.
And do I hear a second? Councilor Sherwood is seconded. Any comments or questions from the council? All those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to 2014-129, the appointment of John J. Call to the Energy Committee. Do I have a motion on that? Council Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 2014-129, the appointment of John Call to the Energy Committee to expire June 30th, 2017.
Okay, and do I hear a second? Council Sokoros has seconded. Any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. And moving on to 2014-130, the appointment of Rosemary E. Werner to the trustees of the War Memorials. And Rosemary, you're here. You want to just come up for a minute? And we, certainly appreciate all of your work that you do in the community, and certainly around the work that you do for the War Memorials that you've been doing for a long time, and that's been going on.
Well, thank you. We'd like to continue. The Doughboy was just the start, but it was a good start. In fact, this afternoon we were down at the cemetery, and we were, I wouldn't say supervising, but we were there looking at them taking out some of the cannons from another memorial. So we're trying to keep the momentum going. It's been decades of neglect, and so it's all going to take time. So we're hoping that with the generosity of people giving donations in memory of loved ones for this, that we can continue, and I promise you I will work very hard for that.
We know you will. Any further comments or questions from the council?
Just wanted to thank Rosie for all the work that she has done over all the years. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion on 2014-130? Councilman McClure.
I'd like to move that we appoint Rosemary E. Werner as a member of the trustees of War Memorials for a term to expire June 30th, 2017.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Council Bartley has seconded. Any further comments or questions? If not, hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving on to 2014-131, the appointment of Susan Ballard to the Council on Aging. Do I hear a motion on...
I know that Ms. Ballard is not present, but I would like to still go ahead and appoint her to make a recommendation for appointment for 2014-131, Susan Ballard as a member of the Council on Aging for a term to expire June 30th, 2017.
Okay, we have a motion, and Council Sokoros has seconded. Any further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to license and permits, and we have a list there of those licenses and permits that have been granted or have been supplied to these companies, to these businesses. Moving on to correspondence. Are there any correspondence that come before the council? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Do we have... Jim T-Verge.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Jim T-Verge, 8 School Street. This is bond season. You always look to see what kind of bonds they're going to do. And we got $10 million payable on 12/12. So I looked up on municipal securities rulemaking, and they've got a new issue going out in 2 days. All right, kind of surprised me, but there's nothing that's going to surprise me anymore after what's been going on, I think. I've been waiting for the free cash figure. And I flipped through the bond issue, and there it was, a free cash figure, $1,300,000, but it is an estimate. I looked at some of the revenues that came in on the local estimated, which are contained in the bond issue, the prospective bond issue, and they came in strong, all right? And there were no opportunities to underestimate in this case of the 3 strongest. I haven't seen the others. But here's the problem. That's a high free cash figure. I'd like to see you put some aside for the snow. just says, it's been consistent in the last couple, 3 years. We've been using $250 to $300K for the snow. But I want to see you, like the other communities in the area, take a bunch of money and reduce the tax levy. Take $500,000 and reduce the tax levy. All right? Now, I noticed in the paper, as an aside, that tax rate's going to go down. But if you notice that there's $288,000 that's being added to the single-family burden, bringing it up to $63.89, just a couple hundred less than Newport, and their average value is $501. Ours will be approximately $310, $311. So in addition to reducing the tax rate by taking some of this $1.3 million, if it materializes, I'd like to factor, to think about it, you got classification first reading, to factor the tax rate this year. You'll read the story on Haverhill. They went to 1.6, not the 1.0 unitary universal subsidy that we maintain. So here's the thing. Anybody who's interested in government, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people here, 8. Only 8. You got to participate. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything. So read this bond issue. You don't even have to take a course. This is it. That's Government 101. That's all you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. You kids come down here after reading it and kick A. Thank you very much.
Good, Jim. Is there anyone else that wants to make a public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. Is there anyone on the council that wants to respond in any way to the public comment? Again, hearing none, we'll move on to public hearings. And we have 2014-15, an ordinance to request that the City Council vote to amend the Amesbury zoning bylaw and the Amesbury overlay zoning map. Mayor Gray is the sponsor. Summary: the proposed zoning amendments seek to modify the existing overlay district boundary to include portions of a parcel not currently included in the overlay district and to make modifications to the provisions of Section 40S. And so I'm going to declare the public hearing open. And do we have a recommendation from the Ordinance Committee?
We do. Thank you, Councilor.
15.
So on Wednesday, November 5, the Ordinance Committee, the 12th, the Ordinance Committee met and voted this bill to recommend it unanimously.
Okay. And do we have a note from Nafun on this from the Planning Board?
He's here.
Nafun, do you want to make a comment on this, please?
For the record, Nipun Jain, City Planner. The Planning Board did recommend adoption of the zoning amendment as submitted, and we had provided a memo today which also has the exhibit showing the amendment to the overlay map, specifically the parcel that is being impacted. So it covers all the questions that were asked previously.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the public that wants to make any comment or ask any question? Hearing none, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed, and I open for a recommendation. Councilor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve 2014-11-15.
Okay, motion to approve. We have a second from Councilor Kelcourse. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, we will...
Thank you. That's just...
Sorry, what? It's from the phone. You just... Yeah, no, that's all right. Okay. So, Bonnie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Councilor Lavoy,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Councilor Molinzade,
Yes.
Councilor Sherwood,
Yes.
Councilor Sequars,
Yes.
Councilor Bartley,
Yes.
Councilor Ferguson,
Yes.
and President McMillan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, moving on to 2014-122, in order to request the City Council to vote that in order to reduce interest costs, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Mayor, is authorized to issue refunding bonds. Mayor sponsor. Summary, this order will allow the city to refinance bonds in order to reduce interest cost. I would declare the public hearing open on this, and we have, I believe, do we have a recommendation from Finance on this?
Yes, we do. We do. The Finance Committee meeting of November 5th, the order to request the City Council vote to reduce the interest cost, Mayor Bray sponsored. Councilor Sherwood made a motion to send it back to the Municipal Council with a recommendation for approval. Councilor McMillan seconded, and it was voted unanimous, with 8 present.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Councilor Lavoy, do you want to make a comment about this?
Yeah, 2 things. The Ordinance Committee did deal with this on November 12th, and it was moved by Attorney Johnson, seconded by Attorney Rafford, and sent back to the City Council, the recommendation adopted as submitted. And then the second item I'd just like to mention, and my thanks to Chuck Benevento, the CFO. I was not present at the Finance Committee meeting on the 5th, so I went in search of a little more detail, and he was kind enough to supply me with the memorandum that was prepared by First Southwest, who's our city advisor on municipal finance, and I was supplied with a memorandum that listed the detail on this, and I've been through it. I sent it around to all the members of the council this morning as a piece of public information, and it answers the question in black and white that there will be savings of approximately $226,000 spread over 10 years, but anytime you can reduce your interest rate at a reasonable refinancing cost, and the refinancing costs are $105,000, but even with that, we achieve savings. So
I appreciate you doing the research and the checking on that. That was good information to have. Thank you. Any other comments from the members of the council? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion on this. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, Jim. Do you have a comment? Is there anyone in the public? Go ahead. Sorry.
Jim Teveridge, 8 School Street. The public, should be heard on these things. And I'm glad the comment and the research done by Councilor Lavoy on the refinancing charges. I mentioned the 2005 refunding. All right, cost almost $900,000 on $14,800,000 to do the refunding. So that's a concern to me. All those costs, you're only going to save $50,000 a year. So the cost of $150,000. He's talking about a $250,000 over 5 years. So what do we save? $350,000. Another thing on refunding, when I mentioned the 2005 refunding, that yield was 2005. Now, I don't know if those treasuries were bought 20 years out, but if they weren't, the yield today for anything less than the long term is a lot less than that 2005 yield. So I've asked you once before, I'd like to check to see, what's the status with the yield of the treasuries backing or paying off that bond. All right, that was the question. I looked in the tax code. Refunding a tax exempt. They can get the tax exempt on the transaction. So, I appreciate the research done. It looks like we saved, $100,000 maybe, but overall net. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Councilor Lavoy?
Mr. President, just to clarify, that's the total savings is in the 300s of thousands, less the 105. The net cost savings are $226,000.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public or from the council? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and I now will entertain a motion for 2014-22.
Council President, I move that we accept 2014-122.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Councilor Sikoris has seconded. Any further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, Bonnie, would you take the roll, please?
Councilor Kalkors,
Yes.
Councilor Lavoy,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Councilor Movinzade,
Yes.
Councilor Sherwood,
Yes.
Councilor Sikoris,
Yes.
Councilor Bartley,
Yes.
Councilor Ferguson,
Yes.
and President McMillan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, moving on to 2014-123, in order to request approval of a TIF agreement and plan and designate an economic opportunity area for 284 Elm Street, Mayor's sponsor. Thanks. I will declare the public hearing open on this, and again, ask for recommendations from Finance, please.
Sure. And the order to request the approval for the TIF, we met on November 5th. Councilor Sikoris made a motion to send it back to the Municipal Council with a recommendation for approval. Councilor Bartley seconded, and it was voted unanimous.
Okay, and Councilor Lavoy?
Yes, Mr. President and members of the council, on November 12th, the Ordinance Committee met and reviewed this, and it was moved by Attorney Johnson, seconded by Attorney Raffa, with the recommendation that it be approved with the exception of correcting certain minor typographical errors that were identified at our meeting. And as a follow-up, Mr. Scott this afternoon sent around, and at our table today, I believe, those red line changes that recommended by the Ordinance Committee are in there, as well as others, which, as an aside, as a counselor, I looked at, and I think they're very well taken.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here from the public that wants to make a comment? Yes, Jim.
Jim Teveridge, 8 School Street. Distinctly heard the CFO say 250 savings on that refunding. So apart from that, on this particular issue, the TIF, I attended the meeting the other night. Mr. Scott made a nice presentation. But, it still bothers me. Number one, it is a jobs bill, but that place has been vacant for a heck of a long time. So, anything that can fill it is, I think, a benefit to the community. But here's the thing. Outside of the interest rates that are going to go up, I wanted to try to find a measure on how to look at this TIF over the whole range, okay? And I've come up with a measure, all right? So we can look at the revenue side and the expense side. I don't know what kind of infrastructure is going to be done there, what kind of water, sewer, and what kind of, costs that the community is going to incur over between now and when that occupancy permit, it gives us all the value, all right? But here's the way to look at it, I think. I don't know what the new value is. You do, hopefully. If you don't, I would, not praise the mayor for not letting you know what the new value is. But I think you have to look at it this way. Take the tax base, you know what the dollar is, find the penny, all right? The whole game is about pennies, all right? So once you know the penny, you can look at in terms of expense, overall expense, and overall revenue over every year till the full value is assumed, because we're only going to get the base value plus whatever Mr. Scott computed over the 75 and the 35. But I don't want to take too much of your time, but that's how to look at it, all right? And there's another thing that bothers me about this. The fact of the matter, in this same bond issue, all right, the 1120 bond issue, the new issue of $3.3 million, they mention the TIF, all right? Now, there are two things about this bond issue that they don't include. The TIF, currently ongoing, because they say at the bottom here, the city has not adopted any sub-district, so we're talking about that. But also, they don't talk about the water money either, $1.70 additional, all right? But that's neither here nor there. I hope you would look into it before the end of the year. But the thing is, I want to read to you the section that bothers me. And in the initial handout that Mr. Scott gave, and which was voluminous, 30 pages, probably 4-point type, both sides, I couldn't find this, but I found it here. This includes pledging such tax increments for the payment of bonds issued. Now, if we issue any bonds here, all right, I hope you let the community know, about these bonds, because many times when the administration, and this is the first bond I can see that this administration has done, so he has no culpability. But you guys never see, and I know I never saw, but you may be different, the authorization and the uses that are within and are going to be paid, all right? So, to me, this is critical. When you read the comptroller's report 2-3 years ago of the state of Massachusetts, you had more authorized unissued bonds than those that were issued and authorized, okay? Now, believe it or not, they have taken care of that, and you'll see that the unissued, all right, but authorized is less than the current issue authorized. So I want you to be aware of this. All right? You have the fiduciary responsibility. They should be letting you know, all right, what the proceeds, the uses are for this particular bond issue. You got $10 million payable 12/12. You got 3.4 here. All right, sometime in December, or as in this current year in February, we issued bonds, okay, but they were already authorized. So thank you very much. This tax increment bonding bothers me. If you want to measure, take a penny of the tax base and measure the revenue and expense, both sides, as you go towards the occupancy permit and take in the full value, because we're not going to get the full value until the commissioner does it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Rick Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee at the Chamber of Commerce. At our November 5th meeting, the committee endorsed the TIF proposal for 284 Elm Street unanimously. We're glad to support it. This is the exact reason why the city has enacted the TIF proposal, because a development like this wouldn't take place without the incentive that's being provided by the city. So I request that you approve the proposal. I'd like to thank Mayor Gray and Director Scott for the hard work that they've done, both in putting the guidelines together for the TIF, but also for putting this proposal together with the developer. This is a great measure, and respectfully request your approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jane?
Snow for NAV. I just wanted to say that years ago I was attending Conservation Committee meetings, and the gentleman who's interested in doing the hotel was going through and working with Napoon, and it went round and round in circles, and finally the plan fell. And then we were very lucky enough to have Mr. Scott and Mayor Gray, and the presentations that both of them have put forward have been like right on the money. They have been phenomenal. And I have to say to you that to finally know that we may get something in the golden triangle that has been an empty triangle for years, I'm doing the jig. And thank you very much for all their time, their hard efforts, and I'm looking forward to seeing a nice hotel that people can have families come and visit. If they don't have enough room, they have a reasonable spot where they can put their families up. I just think it's a win for Amesbury, I truly do. And again, I'd like to thank them for their hard efforts and their wonderful presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Claude?
Good evening, Claude Gonti, 112 Kimball Road. I want to echo Rick Bartley's statement. I think it's wonderful to see when everybody's pulling in the same direction. This TIF proposal is what caused this, because he was here several years ago and he couldn't do it without the TIF. So, and this guy, where he goes, he built the hotel in Seabrook on a side street. You say, what the hell are you building a hotel there? Do you know where it's next to? The mall. You can walk from that hotel to the mall. That's up there now. So the guy's a visionary, and I still think it's the best use for that property, the highest yield that you're going to get, that kind of taxes and collateral income and benefits to the town of Amesbury. What else could you put there that could generate all that? And it would be of use to us, possibly, people would have to use the hotel if they had an emergency in their house, pipes broke, whatever. So it's all good. And, it's a pleasure to have government have a positive effect on our lives. Washington could take a page from your book right now, I'll tell you, because things aren't very rosy over there. I mean, we're all thought of as fools by Congress, and we have to be lied to, and we have a black president and a black attorney general, but we're going to have race riots in this country in 2014. This is outrageous. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Mr. Scott, do you want to make any closing comments, or? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. If there are no further comments from the public, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion on 2014-123. Councilor Sikoris.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that the council accept 2014-123.
Second. And Councilor Kalkours has seconded. Any further comments or questions from the council? Councilor Lavoie?
So this is the first TIF that Amesbury's been involved with. It's a concept that's been kicking around for a couple of years. Mr. Scott has done a great job putting this together, explaining it to the council. The planning board did a good job putting this applicant through its paces. There's a existing planning board decision and conservation commission decision that have been issued. So it's a shovel-ready project that's just waiting for the final impetus to push it over the goal line. And, there can be philosophical differences about should we have TIF, should we not. This is a project that's very appropriate for a TIF. I'm glad that our city is moving in this direction. I'm glad to be here today to vote for it. Thank you.
Councilor Sherwood?
Yeah, we were given an updated version of the agreement with Archgrove. I wonder if we could review that and see what the changes, what the substance of the changes are. But we have a red line version that was provided to us tonight. That's Mr. Scott. Just want to make sure that we understand what the substance of those changes are. Thank you.
Bill Scott, Community and Economic Development Director. If I may, I'll go through the agreement, focusing on the changes. The Ordinance Committee reviewed the agreement and added some changes in item A1. We had put exceeding 90 rooms. There wasn't a room number there originally. Item A2, the word employees was inserted after full-time. For consistency, the word Commonwealth was replaced the word state in item 5, and I believe possibly elsewhere. Item 6 in A on page 2, town was replaced by city. Item 7, I believe this is something that I had added. It said local and state permits and licenses. Added the word licenses because some of these uses require a license. At the council meeting on the 5th, I had indicated that we wanted to link items 8 and 9 with the revocation clause, which is C1. That is, if the owner changes ownership and/or the operations or the nature of the operations, that the city has the right to revoke the agreement. So those two sentences on the bottoms of items 8 and 9 on the top of page 3 clearly indicate that the city has a right of revocation. So if they dramatically change the use or the ownership to the extent it changes the use, we can revoke the TIF. Item B1, 3F inclusive is something that is in other agreements, and it finishes those sections pursuant to 23A. Item B1 also, as described in the table below, on the increased value of the, it should say, property resulting from the construction of the facility. The property obviously precedes the facility. And two items on page 4, or I'm sorry, top of page 4, item 5, personnel, and not personnel, property taxes, AL and not NEL. And I had added on the bottom of page 4 that there's been a lot of spreadsheets going back and forth on numbers. It's the value of the assessors that really sets the numbers in the table. We're really working with percentages, and so if it's in the tables that we've used 7.5 million. It could be 8, it could be 7.25. So that sentence says what we've been showing you isn't the deal until the building is actually built. And then severability clause is common in these. It basically is item 5 on page 4, which clearly indicates that if there's a problem with any section, it doesn't make the entire agreement moot or null and void. The rest of the documents in this, the map, I believe, was in the other one. The EDIP supplemental application is the form that's filled out for the state. So that's attached so we can have consistency, and I put the planning board site plans in there to make sure that there was a reference to what the site plan issues were and documented. So we do have the planning board decision as indicated, and that is required in the agreement to meet the decisions of both the planning board and the Conservation Commission. So some grammatical errors and some content to make sure that we have ourselves covered in terms of the developer understands that prior negotiations were just that, the negotiations, and until such time we get an actual number from the assessor once the building is built, then we really don't know the actual number.
Okay, Councilor Sikora, you had a question?
Bill.
Sure.
Top of page 3, A7. License. Did you want licenses or licensees?
Licenses, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted clarification.
Okay.
There's an extra E.
Oh, all right. I go with the spell checker, unfortunately. So
They're both valid.
I will correct that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Sherwood?
Thank you. Also, Mr. Scott, so just, I know this is something we discussed at the Finance Committee, and it's been one of the things that I've had most questions about, the trail easement. So just want to confirm what's going to happen in regards to the trail easement. If I understand, it's not secured yet, but it will be secured as part of the wholesale process for the rail trail.
Correct.
Easement of the larger Riverwalk connection out over to Salisbury.
And actually, you're right. So this site has a trail easement that goes through it that connects the trail coming from 95 and then across Elm, and then to the trail that would go behind Stop and Shop and connect to our existing system that brings it into the downtown. There were communications back and forth with Councilor Roy, who also brought that up, and so I had requested of both the developer and the property owner to clarify that. it is entered into the purchase and sale agreement so that before the developer accepts the property, the easement is required to be executed on both properties. This property was developed in two pieces. There is a hotel property and the retail property. The easement crosses both of those, so the execution of the easement has to occur on both properties, so regardless what happens on the retail, we'll have the easement. This agreement also references a requirement to meet the planning board decision. So we have that to fall back on, but also I have emails from both the developer and the property owner confirming that the P&S has the easement requirement, or the execution of the easement. And it is better that the current property owner, Mr. Sears, executes it because he's the one who pursued the agreement with National Grid. So it makes it more fluid, and I believe the council already approved the easement with Mr. Sears as a property owner.
Great, excellent, thank you very much.
All set?
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Yes, Councilman McClure.
No questions, just a quick statement. This hotel will bring growth, to ground that's lay vacant for 30 years. I'm so excited to see this happen. We've got a $10 million project on our hands, and the taxes within the first 5 years will be 3 times what we're getting now. It'll be 10 times in the second 5 years, and after that, it's full value. All I can say is if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? We've been waiting a very long time. I want to thank Mayor Gray for his leadership and for bringing the TIF to bear, and I want to thank Bill Scott for the countless presentations that you gave to us as a ordinance committee meeting, a finance committee, a council meeting. You've really gone above and beyond, and I look forward to voting for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council? If not, we have a motion and a second. Bonnie, will you take the roll?
Councilor Kelcourse?
Yes.
Councilor Lavoy?
Yes.
Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Movanzade?
Yes.
Councilor Sherwood?
Yes?
Councilor Sikoris?
Yes.
Councilor Bartley?
Yes.
Councilor Ferguson?
Yes.
And President McMillan?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Moving on to first readings, and I would ask Vice President Kelcourse to please proceed with the items.
Sure. 2014-125, in order to request a City Council vote to hold the annual classification hearing to vote on 4 separate items in order to establish the tax burdens for each class of property. Summary. On an annual basis, the City Council must vote on the issue of selecting a residential factor which will determine the percentage of the burden to be borne by each class of property. 2014-126, in order to request... I'm sorry. I'm jumping a little bit ahead.
Yeah, you really want to... I mean, this meeting is on a roll, but this...
Isn't that what you told me beforehand?
Keep it on a roll.
Okay, do we have a motion on 2014-125? Councilor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion that we send to Finance 2014-125 classification hearing.
Refer to Finance and
to the City Council for a public hearing, whatever day that is.
Okay, Finance
December
is on
8th.
November 9th.
December 9th.
Okay, and back to the council for a hearing on the 29th. When is that? December 9th. Okay. Any further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It is referred.
Council President, 2014-126, in order to request the City Council vote to increase the exemption amount of qualified applicants. Summary. On an annual basis, the City Council must vote to decide if the City of Amesbury shall increase the exemption amount of qualified applicants under the provisions of Massachusetts general laws.
Okay. Councilor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion that we send 2014-126 to the Finance Committee for a recommendation and to the December 9th City Council for a public hearing.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilor Sikoris has seconded. Any comments or questions from the council? If not, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. It is referred.
Next is 2014-127, an order to authorize the mayor to accept and expend a grant in the amount of $5,520 from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. Summary: the Massachusetts Cultural Council is allocating $5,520 from the FY 2015 Local Cultural Council funds to the Amesbury Cultural Council's local fund.
Council Ferguson?
I'd like to make a recommendation we send 2014-127 to the Finance Committee for a recommendation and to the December 9th City Council meeting for a public hearing.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Council Bartley has seconded. Any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous.
Last but not least, I knew I'd have you out of here by 7:45. 2014-132, in order to establish bylaws for the purposes of defining and governing the operation, organization, and authority of the Board of Trustees of War Memorials. Summary: the Board of Trustees of War Memorials was established by the town meeting by virtue of the acceptance of Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 105. But the article did not establish detailed bylaws defining and governing the operation, organization, and authority of the board. The proposed bylaws address issues related to membership, duties, authority, and operation of the board for the purposes of providing stronger, clearer, and more localized guidance to the trustees.
Thank you, Council. Council Ferguson?
I'd like to send 2014-132 to ordinance for a recommendation and to the City Council on December 9th for a public hearing. Do we need finance?
Not going to finance? No?
I think, yeah.
I think it should.
Why? There's no money?
Reading through the...
Well, money goes to finance, ordinance reviews, see if it makes sense. I mean, I'm just as happy not to drag out the committee. We are going to meet December 3 as a special meeting to deal with the chicken ordinance.
Yes, we are.
So we'd be happy to deal with the bylaws at that meeting.
Okay, so your motion is to refer it to ordinance only, and then
That's
to
correct.
the
I don't
council
think it needs to go to
and the
finance.
council on the 9th for a hearing. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor McClure. And any further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous. Now, we have to take up, no, I'm just kidding. A motion to adjourn?
Well, before that, just a quick commercial. We are going to meet December 3, the ordinance committee. I was hoping the newspaper article on Saturday would invite people to come to this council meeting for public comment so that whoever had strong feelings pro or con against chickens would speak up. So maybe they'll come to the 3rd. We did have 3 residents who are affected, and they didn't come to the ordinance meeting. I thought it was a very productive session, and it frankly changed my mind. So.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. If there's nothing else to come before the council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? We are adjourned.
So are you pro-chicken?
I'm neutral.
Neutral on chickens?
We should change the prohibition. It was no good for liquor, it's no good for chickens.